Hello everybody, welcome to Weekly Tech. How are you all? This is the second part of the lecture where we were discussing about closures in JavaScript. Till now we have discussed what are closures. I have given you some practical examples of closures, and in this video we will discuss on rest of the part. If you haven't seen the first part, please click on the I button and you'll get through to that. Now in this video we were going to discuss about emulating private variables. So languages such as Java allows you to declare methods as private, meaning that they can be called only by other methods in the same class. JavaScript does not provide you a native way of doing this, but it is possible to emulate private methods using closures. Private methods aren't useful of restricting the access to the code. They also provide a powerful way of managing your global namespace. For example, let me just give you a demo by declaring a private counter method. So let's say my counter. This counter will receive a value, or it won't receive anything. Let's say it won't receive anything. I want to declare it in this way that I have a counter inside my function, private counter. And this private counter will be accessed by the function that we are going to declare inside this my counter function. Remember, this private counter will not be no one can access it outside this function. Only the functions inside it can access it, and that's where closures come into picture. So let's say I declare a private counter and the initial value is 0. I declare a variable. I now declare a function. Let change value, and there I'll need a value. Okay, and I will simply do a value. That's it. And now I will return an object. Remember, please note here, I'm not returning the inside function. I'm not returning the function inside here. Okay, this function will have access to this private counter, and this private counter can't be accessed anywhere outside. Okay, so here we'll return three functions. One is increment. Increment will do the increment. So increment will simply call this change value with a value of 1. I want to increment it by 1. And the next one will be decrement. Change value will be -1. I want to decrement it. Decrement. And the next one will be get value. And get value will just simply return the value of this private counter. So anytime we want to see what this counter is holding, we can use it. Okay, so and that's it. Now we have a function which will hold our private counter, and we can call the functions increment and decrement to get increment and decrease the value, and to see the value anytime we can use the get value function. So to use it, I'll simply let counter 1 will have, I'll call my counter here. Okay, so whenever I call counter 1 dot get value. It will give me the value. So let me just call increment 2 times. I will get the value, and then we'll call decrement 1 time to get the value. Okay, and let me just run it. Clear the console, and I have called sorry, increment I can call, but increment is not returning anything, so you can't console.log. So I'll just simply, 1 second, give me 1 second. I think you guys have noticed it when I was typing it, but it was a silly mistake from my end. I'll just simply call increment 2 times, and then I'll get the value, and same is for decrement. So because decrement and increment is not returning anything, so you'll get undefined and defined. So it's working correctly, but we don't want to see the output value of increment and decrement. So let me just try to run it again. Hopefully it will work this time. So the initial value that we set was 0 of the private counter. Here it is. So at the first the value was 0. We incremented it 2 times. The value is 2. Then we decremented 1. The value is 1. I know what you guys are thinking of here. Can we create another counter? Yes, we can. Will it interrupt or will it uh, intervene the value of the first counter? No, it won't. That's the beauty. So I'll create one more counter by using the same function, and I'll do the same thing here with counter 1. I'll do the same thing, and with counter 2 I won't decrement it. I will decrement it 2 times and then increment it, and I'll change it to counter 2, right? Counter 2, yeah. Counter 2, counter 2. Counter 2 here should be counter 2. Now let's check what will the output. Here it is. For counter 1 the get value is 0. We incremented it 2 times, it will be 2. Then we decremented 1 time, the value will be 1. For counter 2 the value will be 0 initially, then we decrement it 2 times, so the value will be -2, and then we increment it with 1, the value will be -1. -2 plus 1 will be -1. And this way you can create so many counters for your own personal preferences, and in this way the counter value will not be accessible outside the code, or no one can see that what is you are doing. Simply doing a get and set. What we are doing is just a getter setter, classic getter setters in Java. Coming to the, so hope you guys understood that. Coming to the next point, the last point about the performance considerations of whether we can use closures, or is it a good way to use closures, and if it is good to use closure, then what's the best way of using it. So first of all, it is not advisable to create unnecessary closures. If you are able to work without closures, and it's the best practice, and if the requirement does not require to create a closure, you should not create it, uh, as it will, if closures are not needed for a particular task, you should not create it, as it will negatively affect the script performance, both in terms of processing speed and memory consumptions. For instance, when you are creating a new class or a new object, methods should normally be associated to that object's prototype. I'll show it to you in a working example. So when you are working with a constructor, or when you are creating an object from a constructor, the method inside that constructor should be declared in the prototype, not inside the constructor. The reason is, whenever the constructor is called, the methods will be reassigned. That is for every object creation. Let me tell to you how what is the understanding here. Let me just comment it out. And don't worry, I have shared the link in the description of the whole code that I pushed into GitHub, so you can have access of that. So let me just quickly declare a variable constructor function my details, and my details will have name and age, and I'll say this dot name equal to name dot to string, just to be on the safer side, and this dot age equal to number age. Okay. And how people, so generally what people do is they do like this: get this dot get name equal to my prettier is equal to return this dot name, and same is for this get age, return age. So this will work, no problem, this will work. Let me just create a new, let Uday details for me. I'll create an object by using the new keyword, and we'll give the constructor name. I'll pass my name and age, and then I'll do a console.log of dot get name. I'll call the function and get age. No ways, no worries, it will work. But this is again a closure, a function inside a function. So do we need it? So no, in this case we don't need it. But what's the best way to do it? The best way of doing it is to remove it from here. I'll comment it from here, and I'll declare it in the prototype of this constructor, of this object, dot prototype dot get name, and I'll do it like this. And then I'll return this dot name, and the same is for get age. And I'll run it. What's the problem? Get name. I'm sorry. Get age, get name. Oh, this should be age. I'm sorry. My mistake. Get name. Let me just clear it. Undefined and undefined. Why? Why? Because when we are declaring it in the prototype, the arrow function won't work. So we'll have a separate lecture on the normal function declaration and the arrow function declaration. But here in this case, we need to declare it in a normal way, function, and then only it will have the access to this context, because arrow function will change this values or the context, this context. So that's where arrow functions were introduced. So now it should work, I think so. And here it is. So this is the proper way of doing it. Why I'm saying it? Because whenever you create a new object from the constructor, it won't declare these methods again, get name and get age. If you declare it in this way, every time it will gonna declare a new variable, a new object, and will define these functions inside that object again and again. But when you declare it in the prototype, it will fix it with the prototype, not with the object. It will fix it with the prototype of the object from which it was created. Okay, so this is it with closures. I hope you got an idea of what closures are, and you will going to use it in the future. Let me know what are your suggestions, any questions you have, and please do like and subscribe. Please share, hit that thumbs up button you like it, and let me know if you need something else that need to be covered in a separate video. I'll cover it. Thank you. Have a nice day.